Hello everyone, and welcome to another one of our upskill sessions where today we are talking about inflammation. So inflammation is definitely something that we see is now a global concern. It's not just, pertaining to the colder climates in Europe. We're seeing that there's a huge increase. And we also know with inflammation that, it really impacts not only our clients' skin, but also their lifestyle. Now, before we get into the subject, I must admit this is one that is very close to my heart. I suffer myself with sensitivity, and so I've always been intrigued at what happens to the skin and how it reacts, and why we get certain inflammatory diseases and disorders. So this is a subject that I've researched for many, many years, and it is something where we've always got some new evidence and some new research. So what do we know so far? So this is some of the latest statistics that we have, just to show again and to reiterate that it is really high when it comes to a skin concern. So you can see 51% here in the UK, in other countries, Japan, France, again, it equates to half of the women actually suffering with sensitivity. And also, it is not just for the fairer skins like mine. You can get sensitivity with a darker skin complexion. And the nature of skin sensitivity can really vary according to obviously your skin type, your genetics, where you're from. And it can be quite a challenge, especially with different ethnic origins. There is lots of things to take into consideration. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at what is inflammation, what kind of advice can we give to our clients, and what are the key products that we really should be looking at to advise from Nimue. Well, first of all, let's just think about what skin inflammation is. Inflammation occurs when your immune system is responding to a particular trigger. So you always need a trigger to create this kind of inflammatory cascade. Now, when you have this inflammatory cascade, there is many, many different cells that come into play. And we're going to take a look at those key cells because they all have a little job to do. So I like to think of them as being in kind of like an inflammatory factory, where you need certain things to happen at specific times. So different cells will have different job roles, and that will all really initiate an inflammatory skin response. What we visibly see on the skin is heat, swelling. We might also see some rashes, and we might even find that we get more things like hives or pruritus. So different forms of inflammation appearing on the skin. So this is just a visual just to show what you commonly see on the skin. But we need to be aware that it's not just a topical product that will cause inflammation. And I think this is where clients sometimes get a little bit confused. They will see that the last thing they put on their skin, which is probably going to be a Nimue product, has maybe caused a reaction. We know that this isn't true, that there is underlying contributing factors. And I always say it's almost like a tipping point. So imagine you've got your glass here or your water bottle, and it's getting fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller with contributing factors. And it's kind of up to about here. And when you apply that product, your product is kind of like the final straw. So let's take a look at those contributing factors. A big one that we're seeing nowadays is incorrect product use. So somebody using the wrong types of cleansing ingredients, or even we're seeing at the moment an over cleansed skin due to COVID. So, using harsh types of ingredients, over cleansing, over washing our body, hands, face. Some people also go down the route of using abrasive, very abrasive mechanical types of exfoliators that contain granules. That can be quite drying and stripping. And also looking at the types of products, are they doing what I call cherry picking? So using different products from different ranges, not really knowing exactly what effects each product is giving. So here are some key ingredients to avoid if you're suffering from inflammation, if you've got that kind of susceptibility to inflammation. So a big one is perfume. So perfume, dyes, harsh chemicals, these are going to cause an inflammatory reaction to the skin. The percentages of ingredients. So as you know, with Nimue, we take you on a journey. We gradually increase percentages of actives for that pure reason. And then an over-treated skin. There's a reason why we say, for a hyperpigmented skin, you're going to possibly do your peels less frequently. So, doing too much to the skin is also bad and can trigger inflammation. So what we need to ensure is that we're using the right type of product with the right timing in what we call a controlled type of inflammation. So when we're doing something like a peel, which is generally inflaming the skin, we are doing it in a controlled manner. So that means that we're applying things like our Neutralizer Plus, which is anti-inflammatory. We're doing it for a limited time. We're applying a superfluid or a TDS. We're ensuring that we've, really built the barrier up with our pre and post. So all of this really ensures that if you're treating a sensitive, sensitized skin, inflamed skin, you're going to get maximum results. Also looking at where clients live, the types of water that they cleanse their skin with. I know just traveling up and down the UK with work, it plays a huge part on my face, also on my hair. So hard water generally tends to contain higher levels of minerals like iron, magnesium and calcium. And often you see the signs of hard water around taps. So you tend to see, the lime scale appearing around taps and sinks. So this can also contribute to a more dehydrated, sensitized skin. But one thing we definitely know that clients need to be aware of, which are what we call trigger factors, are things like sun. So I know you're very blessed in Australia to have gorgeous weather and great sun. However, on an inflamed red skin, we need to ensure we're using good sunblock and sunblock that is not causing further inflammation. Stress. Stress plays a huge part, and it's all about that controlled type of stress again. So a short-term stress like a little bit nervous, going on a trip, going back on an aeroplane, that's fine. It's the long-term stress like a stressful job, a stressful situation like a divorce or a bereavement. That can cause an increase in cortisol, and cortisol is a vasodilator. What that means is you're getting an increase in blood flow, which would be redness and inflammation. Alcohol. Now, I hold my hands up. I'm a huge lover of red wine. My skin doesn't love red wine. Excuse me. So if I drink lots of red wine, I am going to suffer with flushing, blushing. You will see my sensitivity. So if I was to sit here now and drink a glass of red wine, you would possibly see the inflammation starting to occur at my face. The weather, colder climates, changing seasons really impacts the humidity level. The humidity level impacts our skin's barrier. So that also causes some inflammation. Think about the colder climate. We tend to wrap up warm. We use a lot more sweaters. Things like wool can aggravate the skin. The same with hats. If you have hats on, some people find they get hives around their forehead here, just again due to the heat and also the types of materials. And then hormones. Hormones really are the driving force for a lot of skin issues. So it's all about a balance with hormones. When we go through that fluctuation of our menstrual cycle, we get a surge in different hormones. That can also increase our sensitivity levels and inflammation as well. So all of this, we need to really be thinking and advising with our clients. So that comes down to a thorough consultation. Check in. What type of sunblock do they use? How is their stress levels? What is their alcohol consumption? Do they protect their skin against the weather? Do they find that their skin is sensitive during different times of the month? So all of this is really going to help us when it comes to treatment programs and also product protocol that we're going to follow. Another huge one that really impacts inflammation is medication. So we know that there are certain types of medication that cause sensitized reactions to the skin. So causes your skin to possibly overreact and possibly barrier to become impaired. Antibiotics are a big one. So they generally cause inflammation over the body and the face. Your statins, hypoglycemic, diuretics, chemotherapeutics, cortisone, antidepressants, blood pressure medication, and cholesterol. So all of these have been shown to trigger inflammation before you've even started. So again, consultation, bear this in mind. It's not to say they're contraindicated, but just bear that in mind when you go to do a treatment. So if your skin reacts, so let's just say we go back to that kind of tipping point. So let's just, excuse me, you're on medication, so you're up to here, you're possibly feeling a little bit run down, a bit sick, you've got a bit of barrier issue, sensitivity, and you have a peel. So you've hit the top of the scale here. What happens is your body goes through and your skin goes through what is called an inflammatory cascade. So it's a really unique process where certain cells come to help and repair. The idea of the kind of cascade is basically to heal your skin. If you think about it, your skin's major function is to protect. So that's what it's trying to do. So you have various what we call inflammatory mediators, along with something which is called chemokines and growth factors that are drawing, attracting white blood cells, opening capillaries, causing possibly your cells to start to produce your collagen, your elastin, your skin cells to come to an area to help to heal that particular inflammation. So what are those types of inflammatory cells? So we've got different cells. A source of cytokines and growth factors are a type of inflammatory cell. They target key endothelial cells, and basically they are going to contribute to the development and structural and functional abnormalities of the vessel wall. So what happens during an inflammatory response or a cascade is when tissues are injured. So let's just say you scratched your skin, or maybe you have pricked your finger on a thorn or something like that. Your skin will go through that inflammatory response straight away. So first of all, cells start to release histamine. They also start to release prostaglandins, and that really causes that inflammatory cascade to kick in. The first thing is your histamine is going to cause your blood vessels to dilate. So they're going to increase in size, which is going to allow blood to flow through the area, white blood cells to flow through, to then be guided up to the site of the injury. So let's just say you've got thinning of the skin or something that has broken the skin, and they will try to heal, and then they will also try and with collagen knit the skin back together. So it's a really delicate process, and some key cells that we know that are involved in this whole inflammatory response are here. Various cells come into play at different times. So if we think first of all of our Langerhans cells, our Langerhans cells are our guard cells. So they are floating around, constantly looking out to see, is anything, causing a reaction? Is anything causing us, to kind of get our army of cells to come into play? If something is, so let's just say the product was the last thing we applied on the skin and it's caused some sensitivity, it will then communicate with various cells. A mast cell is the cell responsible for releasing histamine. That will possibly trigger certain white blood cells, like a neutrophil cell. You might get the macrophage cell come into play, which will eat and engulf any particular debris, waste. And if you think of if you've cut yourself, it's you see that pus starting to appear, and that tells you that that macrophage cell is eaten whatever has entered the skin. So let's just say it's a thorn or something like that, and it spits out the waste in the form of pus along with white blood cells. So it's a really clever system. Sometimes you can get a full-blown response where your T cells and your B cells are also impacted. So the mast cell, we've said, causes histamine to be released. You also get other types of leukotrienes, heparin, proteases. So all different types of inflammatory granules, mediators that come into play as a role. It's kind of like a knock-on effect. So mast cells really go to the injured site to release their histamine. So they are going to cause, like I say, vasodilation, which increases permeability so that white blood cells can leak through those capillaries and they can then go to the injured site. So they really serve as the first line of defense against an antigen, which is something that has caused an immune response into the skin. What do we typically see? So what we will see as a result of inflammation is rashes, itchy and redness. Think about it. Blood capillaries are getting wider. Red blood cells are going to the area. That's why we're seeing redness. Histamine is being released. That's why we're feeling itchy. Now, when we have such things as chronic inflammatory diseases and disorders like dermatitis, which you get eczema, rosacea, seborrheic dermatitis, psoriasis, our skin is chronically going through this inflammatory cascade. So this is where, we kind of need to refer our clients to doctors and dermatologists so they can find the right types of medication to calm down and to help with this overactive inflammatory response that is happening. But you might also find that you see skin inflammation because of an allergy or because of pollution or infections. Or remember, we said medication and barrier and ROS and glycation. So all of these are contributing factors why you might see inflammation. So here's a great visual that I wanted to share with you. So you will see here, something has entered the skin that has caused the skin to break. So the Langerhans cells has gone to communicate with our various other types of cells. You've got a widening of the blood capillary. So histamine has been produced. You've got various different types of monocytes, phagocytes that come to the area, along with different cells, endothelial cells, collagen that try and knit your skin back together. So signs that you've gone through this inflammatory response are erythema, heat, swelling, pain, and of course, sometimes you might actually see blood as well, some bleeding. Excuse me. So there are different types of immunity and an immune response. So you have what is called your innate immunity and you have what is called your adaptive immunity. Your innate is your sharp, quick, rapid response. So that is what I've just described to you, where you've got your macrophage cell, your neutrophils, various other types of white blood cells. Your adaptive is slower response. This is where your T cells and your B cells come into play. So they're really clever because they observe what has entered the skin and caused the reaction, and then they build an antibody. So your B cells build antibodies, your T cells almost, if you could think of them like a photographer, take a picture of what has entered the skin. So that is much more of a severe type of immune reaction, and that is what we call our adaptive immunity. So just to summarize, innate is non-specific, is quick, fast acting, rapid. You've got no memory, so it can happen at any time. Adaptive is slower, It has a memory, it's very specific, and it typically tends to be a late phase of antigen, and it brings about a protective mechanism in the form that it forms antibodies as well, so that if you get exposed to this particular antigen again, it has the specific antibody to be released. So let's link everything back to Nimue and back to our skin. So what do we know? We know barrier is key. So if you're slightly worried about the skin, slightly concerned about sensitivity, go to your barrier products. So make sure the barrier is intact, your pre and post, your element barrier. Look towards your hydration products. So your ultra filler, your hyaluronic oil, your hyaluronic mask, a good moisturizer. Make sure that they use an exfoliating enzyme to even up their complexion. And of course, we now know that our skin microbes and our microbiota contributes to inflammation. So this is a newer area, something possibly you might see in the future, something we're looking at Nimue. So we're really excited, and how that can impact sensitivity and inflammation. We know that a normal skin's microbiome is protection again. So you have got different forms of organisms living on your skin to fight off things that are entering your skin. If the barrier is impaired, if your skin is sensitive, this microorganism habitat is disturbed. So you might find that you don't have exactly the same types of microbes. And this is where we're really looking at possibly increasing good bacteria and evening out the bad as well. So what do we have as a resource? What can Nimue do? So what are the solutions? Well, definitely going down the interactive range. Looking at cleansing gel light, conditioner light with cotton possibly. Moisturizers according to the concern. So maybe go really gentle. Also bear in mind, and some people forget this, that our faders are anti-inflammatory as well. So maybe you go down the route of using faders, or it could be a light moisturizer. Don't forget your exfoliating enzyme, your SPF 40, and more so your 50. Your 50 has got anti-pollution, so it stops the formation of free radicals because of its amazing ingredient, our cyanoacrylate. And also it's got higher levels of zinc, so higher levels of your physical SPF, and that gives you a 50. Looking at those hydrating products, so pre and post is a must. TDS, interactive TDS, super hydrating mask, anti-aging leave-on mask, a great exfoliating, nourishing mask, eye products, and then those key element barriers, your boosters like your hyaluronic, ultra filler, also your super hydrating. All of these are going to really help with an inflamed, sensitive skin. And then your professional treatment. So remember what I said with controlled inflammation. So if you go down the route of using a peel, be slow and gradual. So your unique combination, concentration and strength, your neutralizer plus, your superfluids, your TDS. And of course, remember, we've got our unique delivery systems. So they are going to ensure that you've got a slow kind of delivery of those active acids so that we can eliminate possible irritation to the skin. And a big thing that I want to leave you with is to listen to your body's whispers before they become your screams. If you're seeing inflammation, if you're seeing your skin is a little bit more itchy, it's your body's way of telling you something's not right. Have a look maybe at the skin, have a look at diet, have a look at lifestyle. Your body, your skin, your brain, your gut is all connected. So yes, we can give advice, we can talk about Nimue products, but maybe for that treatment it's a de-stressing treatment. It's an advice to decrease the wine consumption, maybe increase some great vitamins to the skin. So thank you all for listening in. I hope you found this particularly interesting. And like I said, it's a subject that is something very close to my heart, being a sufferer of inflammation, but something as well from Nimue that we're investigating, particularly when it comes to the microbiota. So watch this space. Thank you all. Bye.